Ethan stepped off the transport shuttle onto the surface of Vierlia, feeling the crunch of fine metallic dust under his boots. The air shimmered faintly, tinged with a pale lavender hue, a natural reflection of the planet's distant sun. His eyes scanned the horizon, catching the jagged silhouettes of towering spires where the Vierlian clans held their ceremonial grounds. He had been warned that Vierlia was a planet of warriors, a place where skill and honor were measured in duels, and where even the slightest sign of weakness could earn scorn, or worse. Ethan had trained for this moment all his life. Not in the way humans usually trained, but in the secret ways of the guild he belonged to, a guild whose history stretched back to the earliest days of human expansion into space. Every movement, every breath, every decision had been honed so that he could face the unexpected. And yet, as he looked around at the alien architecture, with its sharp angles and organic curves, a ripple of doubt passed through him. This world was unfamiliar, and the customs of its inhabitants even more so. The shuttle doors hissed shut behind him, and a tall, armored Vierlian approached, moving with a fluid grace that seemed almost unnatural. His skin shimmered faintly under the sun, a natural camouflage adaptation that made him look like a living mirror. "You are Ethan, human envoy," the Vierlian asked in a voice both melodic and commanding. "I am," Ethan replied, keeping his tone steady. "I've come to participate in the tournament." The Vierlian studied him for a long moment, eyes narrowing slightly. "Few humans show the courage to enter our dueling grounds. Follow me." Without waiting for a response, the Vierlian turned and led Ethan toward the central arena, a vast open space surrounded by tiers of seating carved directly into the living rock. The structure was ancient, yet perfectly maintained, as if the planet itself had nurtured the architecture. As they walked, Ethan noticed other warriors preparing for their matches. Some practiced in pairs, their weapons humming with energy as they clashed. Others moved alone, performing intricate forms that combined speed, agility, and strategy. The air was thick with tension, excitement, and an undercurrent of danger. Every eye seemed to watch everyone else, and every movement carried meaning. He realized quickly that this tournament was more than a contest of skill. It was a display of honor, reputation, and social standing. When they reached the preparation area, Ethan was introduced to the other participants. Most were Vierlian, but a few were from distant worlds, curious and brave enough to test themselves in this most prestigious arena. His gaze was drawn immediately to one warrior who stood out among all others. She was tall, her posture perfect, her movements fluid even while standing still. Her eyes glinted like molten silver, and her weapon, a long energy blade, hummed faintly in her grip. Leora. He had heard whispers of her name before arriving. She was undefeated, known across multiple systems for her skill and courage. No one had ever bested her in combat, and her reputation carried the weight of legend. Now, standing just a few meters away, she was more intimidating than any story could convey. She turned her gaze toward him, and Ethan felt a shiver pass down his spine, not from fear, but from the weight of being seen by someone who judged so keenly. "You are human," she said, her voice calm but carrying authority. "I have heard stories. Few humans dare to enter these grounds. I came to test myself," Ethan replied, "and to learn if I can." Leora's lips curved in a faint smile, one that carried both curiosity and challenge. "Then you will have your test," she said, stepping closer. Her presence was commanding, and yet there was a grace to her, a rhythm to the way she moved. "I challenge you to a duel." The words hung in the air. A duel was not simply a fight. It was a formal, ritualistic test of skill, courage, and honor. To refuse would be a great insult, but to accept was to step into the unknown, facing a warrior whose skill was renowned throughout the galaxy. Ethan felt the adrenaline spike in his chest. He nodded. "I accept." Her smile widened just slightly, and she turned, signaling to the other warriors to clear a path. The arena's doors opened, revealing a wide expanse of flat ground, its surface a polished alloy that reflected the pale sunlight. Around it, the crowd of spectators, Virelian and off-world alike, had gathered. Murmurs passed through the crowd as they recognized Leora and saw Ethan step forward. Some whispered his name. Some whispered their astonishment that a human had the courage to face her. Ethan took a deep breath and centered himself. He flexed his fingers and felt the familiar grooves of his tattoo under his sleeve. It was a symbol few had seen, representing the legendary human guild that had produced some of the most skilled warriors in known space. In his mind, the tattoo was a reminder of the legacy he carried, not just for himself, but for all of humanity. The rules of the duel were simple: no lethal strikes unless one participant surrendered, and victory could be achieved only through skill, precision, and honor. Weapons would be energy blades calibrated to match each fighter's strength and reflexes. The audience would judge the duel, their approval determining how the duelists' reputations would be recorded in the annals of Virelian history. As they faced each other, Ethan and Leora measured one another. Every detail mattered: the angle of a stance, the rhythm of breathing, the subtle shifts in weight. They circled each other slowly, eyes locked, reading movements and anticipating reactions. Then, without warning, Leora lunged, her blade cutting through the air with lightning speed. Ethan barely raised his own weapon in time to parry. Sparks flew where the blades met, and the sound echoed across the arena. They moved like dancers in a deadly ballet. Leora struck with speed and precision, each attack calculated to test his defenses. Ethan countered, relying on his training and instincts, dodging and parrying with fluidity and focus. The crowd leaned forward, eyes wide, captivated by the skill on display. Then it happened. In a moment of adjustment, Ethan's sleeve slipped slightly, revealing the tattoo on his forearm. Leora's eyes widened as she froze mid-strike. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to hold still. The symbol was ancient, one that spoke of honor, courage, and a human warrior whose deeds had once saved a Virelian clan from annihilation. Recognition passed through Leora's eyes, mixed with astonishment, respect, and a hint of fear. Ethan noticed her pause, his own chest tightening. He hadn't expected anyone here to recognize the tattoo. He hesitated, unsure whether to continue the duel or step back. The silence was thick, the audience confused by the sudden interruption, murmuring softly among themselves. Leora slowly lowered her weapon, her gaze fixed on Ethan. "Where did you learn this?" she asked, her voice almost reverent. "That mark, it belongs to the one who saved my ancestors centuries ago." Ethan swallowed. "I trained in the same ways," he said carefully. "Not the same person, but the guild, its legacy lives on." Her expression softened slightly, but the intensity remained. "A human, carrying the symbol of the hero who defended my people, I did not expect this." She looked around, almost as if the weight of history pressed down on her shoulders. "Tell me, human, do you understand what it means to stand here with this mark?" "I do," Ethan said firmly. "I honor it, and I honor the warriors who came before me." For a long moment, neither moved. The energy in the arena shifted from excitement to awe. The duel that had been about skill and competition had transformed into something deeper, a moment of recognition, history, and unspoken respect. Finally, Leora nodded slowly. "Then we fight not as enemies, but as warriors bound by honor. But understand this, I will test you fully. Your skill, your courage, your heart. Are you ready?" Ethan squared his shoulders. "I am." The tension in the arena built again, the audience sensing that something extraordinary was unfolding. Two warriors from different worlds, connected by history and honor, prepared to engage in a duel that would be remembered not for who won, but for the courage and respect displayed. And as they circled each other, blades humming and eyes locked, Ethan realized that this duel would change not only his fate, but the way humans were seen across the galaxy. The first strike came, not with aggression but with measured precision. Sparks flew as blades met, each testing the other's skill. And in that moment, Ethan knew the duel had begun, not just for victory, but for honor, understanding, and the beginning of a connection that could alter the course of history itself. The duel had paused, but the air in the arena remained electric. Spectators leaned forward on the edges of their seats, whispers and murmurs flowing through the crowd like a wave. Every eye was on Leora and Ethan. For a moment, it seemed as though time had slowed, and the only thing that existed was the tattoo on Ethan's forearm. The symbol, etched in intricate patterns, glowed faintly under Virelia's pale sunlight, a legacy of a hero long gone. Leora's silver eyes never left it. Ethan felt her gaze like a weight pressing against his chest. He had trained for countless duels, for moments of life-and-death tension, but nothing had prepared him for the intensity of recognition in another's eyes. He flexed his hand subtly, tracing the edges of the tattoo under his sleeve. This was more than a mark, it was a message, a signal to anyone who understood its meaning. For Leora, that understanding had come instantly. "Your mark," Leora finally said, her voice steady but layered with emotion. "It belongs to the hero who defended my people centuries ago. The human who changed the course of our history." Her voice faltered slightly as she remembered the stories passed down through her family. "I thought the legacy of that warrior was gone. I never expected to see it again." Ethan's heart raced. He had known the guild's reputation carried weight across human settlements and even alien worlds, but he had never imagined it would resonate with someone so far from Earth. "I trained in the same ways," he replied. "I carry the knowledge, the skills, and the principles of the guild. I honor their legacy." Her eyes softened for a moment, though the intensity remained. "Then you understand what it means to stand here," she said. "It is not just a duel anymore. This mark connects you to history, to duty, and to respect. How you proceed now will shape more than just your own reputation." Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and apprehension. He had prepared for combat, but history and honor were new variables, unknown and unpredictable. He lowered his weapon slightly but did not relax. "I am ready," he said, "but I must admit, I did not expect my arrival to carry this weight." Leora tilted her head, considering him carefully. "Many warriors fear what they do not understand," she said, "and some humans are reckless, but you show both courage and control. That is rare. Perhaps it is why the guild's symbol appeared to me now." The crowd murmured, some puzzled, some intrigued. The duel that had begun as a contest of skill had transformed into a moment of revelation. The elders in the audience, Virelian warriors with faces etched by centuries, whispered among themselves, recognizing the human connection immediately. Even the other competitors glanced at Ethan differently now, some with respect, others with cautious envy. Leora lowered her weapon fully now, taking a step closer to him. "Tell me," she said softly, almost as if speaking to herself, "how did your guild survive while so many others fell? How do you humans maintain your courage across the stars?" Ethan took a deep breath, recalling the countless hours of training, the discipline instilled by the guild's masters. "We learn to trust in our skills," he said. "We learn to think, to adapt, to act with honor even in situations that seem impossible. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to face fear and move forward." Leora's gaze lingered on him. For the first time she seemed vulnerable, not in weakness but in awe. Her posture, usually so commanding, relaxed slightly. "Then perhaps this duel is no longer about testing strength," she murmured. "Perhaps it is about understanding. Humans and Virelians, we may share more than conflict. Perhaps we share principles." Ethan nodded. He felt the same. He had come to Virelia expecting a duel of blades and strategy, but this was a duel of respect, of history, of understanding between two species. Yet the tension was far from gone. Other warriors were waiting, watching closely, and not all would accept this pause. A challenge could still erupt into conflict if either side faltered. "Do you wish to continue the duel?" Ethan asked cautiously. "We could fight with honor without injury just to demonstrate skill and respect." Leora's eyes glimmered, the faint hint of a smile returning. "Yes," she said, "but know this, I will still test every skill you have. You are human and humans are clever. I will need to see that courage and strategy you speak of in action." Ethan felt a surge of determination. He had trained for situations like this, for moments where cleverness, skill, and courage had to combine. The duel could resume, but now it would carry more meaning than either of them had anticipated. They took their positions again, circling slowly, analyzing each other. Every movement, every subtle shift, was both attack and observation. Ethan noticed how Leora's stance reflected years of training in both offense and defense, how her reflexes were tuned to perfection. He adjusted his own strategy, relying on his instincts, his knowledge of human martial forms, and his understanding of alien physiology to predict her moves. Leora struck first, a quick series of lunges and spins, testing his defenses. Ethan blocked, parried, and countered, his movements precise and deliberate. The clash of energy blades sent sparks scattering, and the crowd gasped at the display of skill. It was more than a fight. It was a dialogue in motion, an exchange of intent, strength, and understanding. Minutes passed in this way, both testing and learning from each other. Ethan noticed that Leora's attacks were not purely aggressive. They were probes, looking for weaknesses, trying to gauge his response. He responded in kind, not with brute force, but with adaptability, using speed, angles, and anticipation to match her style. The crowd's murmurs grew into audible excitement as they witnessed something extraordinary, a human holding his own against the greatest Virelian warrior. Then a subtle shift occurred. Leora changed her approach, moving faster, integrating unexpected feints and tricks that relied on her knowledge of the human style. Ethan adjusted, matching her every move. For a fleeting moment, they were evenly matched, their skill and strategy intertwining in a complex dance. The tattoo on Ethan's arm seemed to pulse with significance, a silent acknowledgement of legacy guiding his movements. "Your skill, it is remarkable," Leora said between movements, her voice calm but edged with respect. "Your training has honored your guild well. Few could have adapted so quickly to my style." Ethan allowed himself a brief nod. "And your technique, it is flawless. I see why you are undefeated." For a moment, they paused mid-motion, breathing heavily but focused. The tension in the arena shifted from anxiety to admiration. The duel was no longer a test of victory or defeat. It had become a demonstration of human ingenuity meeting alien mastery. Yet, even as they paused, Ethan sensed a deeper challenge. The other clans were watching closely, evaluating not just him, but Leora's response to him. If she appeared hesitant or uncertain, rivals might seize the opportunity to undermine her reputation. And Ethan knew that any mistake on his part could ignite a larger conflict. He lowered his weapon slightly, signaling respect, but kept his senses sharp. "Leora, the other clans, they are watching closely. If they interpret our actions wrongly, it could spark tensions." She nodded, understanding the unspoken warning. "We fight not just for ourselves," she said. "We fight for the respect of our people and for understanding between species. That is a greater test than any duel." Their blades clashed again, this time in a slower, more controlled exchange. Each strike was deliberate, each block precise. The crowd watched in silence, captivated not only by the skill but by the story unfolding before them. It was a story of history, honor, and unexpected recognition, bridging the gap between human and Virelian cultures. As the duel continued, Ethan noticed subtle changes in Leora's approach. She was testing him not for dominance, but for collaboration, seeing if he could anticipate her moves, understand her intentions, and respond with intelligence rather than force. In this way, the duel became a lesson, a shared experience, and a bond forming between two warriors from different worlds. Minutes stretched, the sun slowly moving across Virelia's pale sky. Neither combatant showed signs of fatigue, their focus unbroken. The crowd remained captivated, realizing they were witnessing something historic, a human and a Virelian warrior demonstrating skill, honor, and mutual respect in a way that transcended cultural boundaries. Finally, Leora stepped back, lowering her weapon fully. Ethan mirrored her, breathing heavily but steady. For the first time, the duel paused without either needing to surrender or strike a decisive blow. The crowd erupted into applause, not for victory, but for the extraordinary display of skill and honor they had witnessed. Leora's eyes met Ethan's, a mixture of admiration and acknowledgement reflected in them. "You have proven yourself," she said softly, "not just in skill, but in understanding what it means to carry your history, to honor your people, and to respect another. That is rare among humans and among Virelians as well." Ethan felt a surge of relief and pride. He had come to Virelia expecting a duel of blades, but he had found a connection that went beyond combat. History, honor, and mutual respect had transformed what could have been a contest into a meaningful alliance. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I never expected the duel to be more than a test of skill, but I've learned something far greater today." Leora nodded. "And so have I," she replied. "Perhaps this is the beginning of something new, not just for us but for our people." As they stepped away from the center of the arena, the crowd continued to murmur in excitement. Whispers of the human with the legendary tattoo spread quickly, reaching ears that had never before known of Earth's warriors. Some clans approached cautiously, others with curiosity, but all had recognized that a shift had occurred. A human had earned respect, not through dominance alone, but through skill, courage, and understanding. Ethan and Leora walked together, not as rivals but as equals. Each step carried the weight of history, but also the promise of future challenges, alliances, and discoveries. The duel had paused, but their journey together had just begun. And somewhere in the galaxy, the legacy of the Guild and the courage of humanity had found a new echo, carried in the movements of a duel that would be remembered for generations. The arena was alive with murmurs and whispers, the excitement of the duel slowly giving way to awe and respect. Ethan and Leora stood side by side, not as adversaries, but as warriors who had shared a rare moment of understanding. The sun cast pale violet light across the polished ground, reflecting the faint glow of their weapons. Yet even as they caught their breath, a subtle shift in the air made Ethan's instincts flare. Something was not right. From the far end of the arena, shadows moved in ways that did not belong to the audience. Figures darted between the tiers of seating, cloaked in dark armor that absorbed the faint sunlight. Ethan's grip tightened on his energy blade. He had faced ambushes before, but something about this felt different. He glanced at Leora, who had already noticed the movement, her posture shifting instinctively into a defensive stance. "They are attempting an ambush," Leora said, her voice low but tense. "Rogues from a rival clan. They want to claim this arena while our attention was on the duel." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Then we fight together, no hesitation." Without waiting for further words, they moved toward the intruders. The rogue warriors attacked with coordinated precision, their weapons crackling with stolen energy, striking toward the audience as much as the duelists. Spectators screamed and scattered, creating chaos as the rogues attempted to dominate the arena. Ethan lunged forward, deflecting an energy strike aimed at a group of frightened spectators. Sparks flew where his blade met the enemy's, and he felt the familiar rhythm of combat take over. Leora mirrored him, her movements fluid and deadly, combining speed, agility, and calculated strikes. It was as if their duel had been training for this very moment, and they moved as a synchronized force. The rogues had expected to face divided opponents, humans and Virelians unsure of one another. Instead, they encountered two warriors acting with perfect coordination, reading each other's intentions without speaking. Ethan's human ingenuity and adaptability complemented Leora's precise technique. They moved through the chaos like a single unit, protecting the crowd while targeting the most dangerous attackers first. Ethan ducked a high strike and spun, delivering a calculated counter that disabled one of the rogue warrior's weapons. Leora jumped over a low sweep, landing gracefully behind another assailant and disarming him with a swift motion. Every move was deliberate, every strike purposeful, and the audience watched in stunned silence as the humans and Virelians fought side by side. Amid the chaos, Ethan caught sight of a rogue leader, taller and more imposing than the others, wielding a weapon that radiated dark energy. The leader moved toward Leora, intending to strike a blow that could end the fight decisively in favor of the rogues. Ethan reacted instantly, intercepting the strike with a precise parry, his blade ringing against the leader's weapon. The force of the clash sent sparks scattering, illuminating the determination in his eyes. "Focus on him together," Ethan called to Leora. "We can't let him turn the tide." Leora nodded, understanding immediately. They circled the rogue leader, drawing him into a trap of their coordinated movements. Ethan feinted left, forcing the leader to commit, while Leora struck from behind with her blade. The rogue leader staggered, and Ethan followed with a precise thrust that disabled his weapon. The remaining attackers hesitated, their confidence shaken by the efficiency of their opponents. "Humans," Leora muttered under her breath, a mixture of respect and amazement in her voice. "Your people are truly remarkable." Ethan smiled briefly, even as he parried another strike. "And your people, Leora, are incredible warriors. We make a good team." The ambush began to collapse as the remaining rogues realized they were outmatched. One by one, they were disarmed, incapacitated, or forced to retreat. The crowd, which had been fleeing in fear moments before, now cheered, their voices rising in celebration of the unexpected heroes. Ethan and Leora stood amidst the defeated attackers, breathing heavily but triumphant. The arena had been saved, and with it, the honor of both their peoples. As the adrenaline faded, Leora turned to Ethan, her expression a mixture of awe and gratitude. "I did not expect a human to act with such courage and strategy in the midst of chaos," she said. "You have proven not just your skill but your heart. That is rare in any species." Ethan lowered his blade, feeling the weight of the moment. "I could not let innocent lives be harmed," he said simply, "and I trust that together we could overcome anything." The audience erupted into applause once more, this time not for a duel but for a display of heroism and unity. The elders of the Virelian clans approached, their faces etched with age and wisdom, nodding in approval. They had witnessed something extraordinary, a human, carrying the legacy of a long-gone hero, fighting with honor and intelligence alongside a legendary Virelian warrior. One elder stepped forward, his voice carrying over the still excited crowd. "Today, we have seen not only skill but courage, wisdom, and honor. This human, bearing the mark of a hero, has proven himself not by defeating a warrior, but by defending life and upholding the principles of our greatest ancestors." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. The recognition of the guild's legacy was meaningful, but the respect of another culture, earned through action and integrity, was something far more profound. Leora stepped beside him, her arm brushing lightly against his in acknowledgement of their shared effort. "Humans," she said softly, addressing the crowd as much as Ethan, "are capable of greatness beyond what we imagined. And today, we have learned that courage, honor, and wisdom are not limited to one species. They belong to all who choose to act with heart and purpose." The applause grew louder, and Ethan realized that this moment was not just about him or Leora. It was about the perception of humanity itself. The people of Vyrlia, and likely others who would hear of this event, would remember that humans were not merely explorers or settlers, but courageous, adaptable, and honorable beings. As the crowd began to disperse, Ethan and Leora walked together toward the edge of the arena. The adrenaline had faded, leaving a sense of calm and purpose. They spoke quietly, sharing observations and thoughts about the battle, analyzing each move and counter, as warriors often did. Yet beneath the discussion of strategy, a bond had begun to form, a mutual respect that went deeper than the duel, deeper than the ambush. "You know," Leora said after a pause, "I never expected to learn so much from a human, and yet here we are. You have shown skill, courage, and integrity. I respect you, Ethan." Ethan smiled. "I respect you too, Leora. Your skill is unmatched and your courage in the face of danger is inspiring. I've learned a lot from you today." They walked in silence for a few moments, the sun slowly dipping toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the arena. Ethan felt a sense of accomplishment, but also anticipation. He knew this was just the beginning. The universe was vast, full of challenges, cultures, and mysteries that humans had yet to encounter. But he also knew that moments like this, where understanding, courage, and skill intersected, were what made humanity capable of leaving a lasting mark on the galaxy. As they reached the edge of the arena, a messenger arrived, breathless and carrying a sealed communication from one of the Vyrlian elders. Ethan opened it carefully, reading the words that would change the course of his time on Vyrlia. The elder invited him to join a council of warriors, a position of honor and influence, acknowledging the courage and wisdom he had displayed. Leora glanced at him, her silver eyes reflecting both pride and curiosity. "It seems your legacy is only beginning," she said. "The guild, your skill, and your courage have earned you more than a duel. They have earned trust, respect, and a place among our people." Ethan felt a sense of humility mixed with determination. He had come to Vyrlia expecting a test of skill, a duel to prove himself. Instead, he had discovered something far greater, the ability of humans to inspire, to protect, and to form bonds that transcended species and history. The tattoo on his arm was no longer just a mark of legacy. It was a symbol of possibility, of connection, and of hope. The sun finally dipped below the horizon, bathing the arena in soft twilight. The crowds had dispersed, leaving only the echoes of celebration and the distant calls of the Vyrlian wildlife. Ethan and Leora stood together, looking out over the landscape, a sense of anticipation hanging between them. The duel had ended, the ambush had been overcome, and yet their journey was just beginning. "Human," Leora said softly, "I hope you understand what you have done today. You have shown that courage, skill, and honor are not limited by species. You have shown that humanity is capable of greatness." Ethan looked at her, meeting her gaze with steady resolve. "I understand, Leora, and I hope we can continue to show that together. There is much to learn, much to explore, and many challenges ahead, but we will face them as warriors, as allies, and as equals." For a moment, the universe seemed to pause, the pale light of Vyrlia casting a serene glow over two warriors from different worlds, united by respect, courage, and the promise of what humanity could achieve. The duel had begun as a challenge, but it ended as the beginning of something much greater, a story of humans standing proud among the stars, a story of honor, courage, and connection that would be remembered for generations. And as Ethan flexed his fingers over the tattoo on his arm, he realized that this was only the first chapter in a legacy that would echo across galaxies. He had proven himself in combat, in strategy, and in heart. He had earned not just respect but friendship, trust, and a place among beings who would shape the future of the galaxy. Leora turned to him, a faint smile playing across her lips. "Let us see where this path leads, human. Together, I believe we can face anything." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight and excitement of the moment. The stars above Vyrlia shimmered, promising new adventures, new challenges, and new victories. Humanity had shown its strength, not in dominance, but in courage, intelligence, and the ability to inspire and protect. And together, they would face the galaxy with honor, skill, and hope. The night settled over the arena, quiet and peaceful now. But in the hearts of those who witnessed it, the story of a human and a Virelian warrior, united by skill and respect, would live on forever.